It doesn't matter how good of an actor I become, I will never be able to top the line in this movie that is one of the greatest lines and deliveries in cinema history. Buckle up because it's episode 18, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
Take that, you dinosaur!
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Jared Fearing. I'm a lifelong Godzilla fan and a big fan of Halloween. And nothing says Halloween like monster movies. So this year, for the month of October, we're going to review every single Godzilla movie from Gojira all the way to Godzilla and Kong the New Empire. So join me this month for a new video every single day and see if I go insane in the process. Let's get to it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 18, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. At this point in the Heisei era, they start introducing a new monster each movie. After Biollante, it's King Ghidorah, and then Mothra and Batra, etc., etc. And these are some of the very best designs you're going to see in all the films that use suitmation, and even the more modern ones that are CGI. The designs are just outstanding. The movie opens with a camera going over the ocean floor, and we see the deceased body of King Ghidorah with one of its heads blown off. And there's two people narrating the situation, and it's made abundantly clear that they are in the future and they're discussing some gigantic event that happened in the past. If the introduction featuring the dead King Ghidorah wasn't enough, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, they introduce UFOs, people from the future, a dinosaur that may or may not be Godzilla. This movie is so jam-packed with so many different assets. It's really incredible, honestly. There's kind of a failing author who's trying to put together a book about a dinosaur that may have saved Japanese soldiers during World War II. The thing with the dinosaur is pretty interesting because they try to give Godzilla an actual origin story as opposed to him just being a product of nuclear weapons. And unfortunately, he got left behind on the island, which was then subject to the nuclear bombs, and that's how we get the Godzilla of the Heisei era. Now, Godzilla vs. Biollante actually did receive US distribution through HBO of all places. But after that, the Heisei era films were never released in North America until Godzilla 1998 came, and then distribution started pumping out DVDs and stuff like that through TriStar. And Godzilla vs. Biollante is a great little movie, so you might think, why did they stop with the North American releases? Well, the very next movie in the series, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, features some pretty strong anti-American elements. In particular here, they feature some historical scenes where the American troops are basically framed as the bad guys and the Japanese troops are kind of the good guys. And so it's a bit of a controversial situation. The American troops attack the Japanese ones, and a lot of them get killed by Godzillasaurus, the dinosaur that ended up helping the Japanese. So I do understand the controversy, but it's just a movie. At some point, we obviously did get over it because these did eventually get a release. But to not be released for almost 10 years is pretty crazy in my opinion. Now, if that was it, maybe it would have gotten a release, but that's not it actually. The alien villains, which are known as the Futurians, which I accidentally called the Zillions way back in one of our early episodes. The Futurians, which are finally here, they are just people basically from the future, and hence the Futurian. But they come back to the past claiming that there is a way for them to stop Godzilla from being created by mucking with time travel. It's all a sham. They secretly want to use King Ghidorah to take over modern Japan, which has since grown too big for its britches in the future, according to these villains. So they're basically American villains from the future that want to stop Japanese growth. So yeah, there is kind of like an anti-American plot line, if you will. When we first find Godzilla in this movie, he's actually still suffering from the effects of the Biollante nuclear eating bacteria that they infected him with in the last movie. So it's cool that we get to see some continuity through the films. This movie also reintroduces Mickey, who was introduced in the last movie, the Psychic. She goes back in time with them and helps with the whole Godzillasaurus Godzilla swaparoo. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to take Godzillasaurus from the past and move him to a different island so that he is not bombarded by radiation and does not become Godzilla. That's the plan. But what the Futurians really want to do is they're secretly releasing these little tiny individual-sized King Ghidorahs called Dorats, which I would definitely have as a pet if they were real. They release 3 of them, and they come back to the future, and the Futurians obviously knew what they were doing, and the 3 little Dorats have morphed together. They've melded into one and become the King Ghidorah that we know and love, and the design is just outstanding, as it's always been with King Ghidorah. Now, while they're on the island getting attacked by Godzillasaurus, the American troops have one of the best scenes of all time. And that is where they open fire on Godzillasaurus, and this one actor delivers the line, "Take that, you dinosaur."
Take that, you dinosaur.
This is the apex of acting. I could not do this if I tried. It is so good, so perfectly 90s. I remember that line more than any other aspect from this movie, which is kind of insane because the battle scenes are great. There's a lot of fun plot things, but I've remembered that since I saw it, 20 years ago or more since I first saw it. So take that, you dinosaur. Another fun scene with the Americans is that 2 of them are stationed at night and they see the UFO go overhead, and one says to the other something to the effect of, "Oh, wow, that's crazy. Be sure to tell your kid about that when he's born, Mr. Spielberg." And it's hinting that Steven Spielberg has this kind of close encounter relation story. I don't know if that's true, if he did have a relative that was in the military that claimed to see UFOs or something like that. And I'm not going to take the time to Google it, but if somebody knows the answer and wants to pop it in the comments, that would be much appreciated. It's just a very interesting thing for them to stick in. And I don't actually know if that scene's in the Japanese version, but it's definitely in the American version.
You can tell your son about it when he's born, Major Spielberg. Sir, yes, sir. I will, sir.
When it comes to the American actors that they got to play the Futurians, oh boy, it makes me feel great about my own career in acting because they are horrible, and they got a AAA feature. I would consider Godzilla a AAA feature, even then. But they are terrible. They are so bad. They are so bad that I actually like it. It's approaching like Tommy Wiseau in The Room category level of acting. They have one guy that is clearly supposed to be a knockoff of the Terminator, and he is just fantastic. He is so good in the worst possible way. I absolutely love that these people got these like serious roles. It's really kind of insane, even for the 90s, but hey, whatever. I will say that there is definitely something with Japanese movies where when you see English-speaking actors, they're usually pretty goddamn bad. And my theory behind that is because they probably speak some Japanese and they have some access to the Japanese film community. And so even if they're not that good of an American actor, they've got this connection to work in the industry there. But also I would say in today's movies and TV shows that the general level of actor is quite a bit better. It's rare that you see really bad acting these days. So maybe I'm just thinking out loud. But these actors, amazing. Makes me feel really good about my future. Speaking of the Terminator ripoff guy, one of the downsides of this movie, and this is going to be one of the downsides throughout the Heisei era and all the way into the Millennium movies, is that CGI is starting to permeate into the films here. CGI has never, in my opinion, been able to really cut it on the same level as practical effects, with very few exceptions. Thankfully, the legendary movies we get today are like top level CGI, and they actually look great. But a lot of CGI looks horrible, and unfortunately that's the case here. This movie happened at a time when CGI was still like in its very early stages of being implemented into movies, and we see some really, really bad CGI in this. It sucks, but whatever, it's just kind of a timestamp from when the movie was made. This movie isn't the only one to have this kind of problem, so it's easy to overlook. But when you're watching the Terminator guy run down the highway and it looks really ridiculous, this movie came out in 1991. Just remember that Jurassic Park came out in 1993. Now, where was I with the plot? Oh yes, they tried to stop Godzilla from being created by moving him to a different island. Well, he got some radiation anyway. Godzilla's back, and they say that he's bigger than ever, although I'm pretty sure he looks the exact same as he did in the Biollante film, but that's fine. He comes back, has a great fight scene with King Ghidorah, and kills the shit out of him. One of the Futurians, though, happens to be a good guy and didn't realize that they were actually coming back in time to do some evil stuff. And so she goes back into the future and gets help to retrieve King Ghidorah's dead body, the one that we saw at the start of the movie, and she turns it into a cyborg and makes Mecha King Ghidorah, one of my favorite designs in the entire franchise. It's so good. And then they have King Ghidorah come back to the past and fight the superpowered Godzilla, and it's kind of a stalemate. King Ghidorah kind of whoops his ass, and they fly out into the ocean and crash, and that's kind of where we're left with Godzilla for the end of this movie, out in the middle of nowhere with King Ghidorah's metal corpse on top of him. The girl from the future escapes from the ocean, and she tells the reporter that she's actually a descendant of his, and all ends well that all's well that ends well. How does that go? All's well that ends well? Jesus Christ, all of that's getting cut. Anyway, she goes back to the future and everything is fine. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is just such a 90s movie. There's so many things about it that I really love. From like just the right amount of cheesiness to the great Heisei effects. Godzilla looks menacing, the fight scenes are great, King Ghidorah looks incredible. There's actually a plot that is a lot of fun, even if it is really silly. And it's such a peak for the series to be able to hit all these notes just right. I really wish I could have enjoyed this one in the theater. I highly recommend this movie. So come back tomorrow while we go over Godzilla vs. Mothra: Battle for the Earth. Remember, as always, to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah in the comments. I love this movie. I can't wait to talk to you guys about Godzilla vs. Mothra: Battle for Earth tomorrow. I will see you then.